Okay, hello. It's September 15th. I think the current plan is if we are not pregnant by November to go back to the OB and be like, what's happening? What is going on right now? And honestly, I'll probably just make that appointment in the next couple of days because they're not gonna be able to see her for like a month and a half to like 3 months anyway. So like we may as well like get ahead of that essentially. Yeah, we're going on the cruise in mid-October on a Disney cruise. And the last time that we went on a Disney cruise, we got pregnant like right when we got back from it. So I think that feels kind of like, I don't know, specific, I guess. Logically, it does not make sense that Morgan would be pregnant this cycle. I feel like she's pregnant. I feel like she is. I don't know what it is. It's like a vibe, and it could just be like my own very like dramatic hopefulness in like my brain, but I feel like she is. I just do, but I can't say that to her. I can't tell her that because then she'll also be hopeful. And like, she just keeps on saying that she really feels pregnant. This is the most pregnant she's felt. Like, she feels like she's pregnant. And the other thing that's hard is that it would make sense for her to feel that way because like we just came off of progesterone, right? So this is the first time that her hormones have been doing something even vaguely normal compared to our past cycles in a hot minute, right? So I don't know. I hate the 2-week wait. It's the worst fucking part. It's terrible. The whole time you're like, fuck. Like, it's just like desperately trying to think about anything else. And like, you can't, like, you have to think about it. Like, there's not and it's gonna be so disappointing when we get a negative test. Like, it just is. Like, I'm gonna cry for sure. And it happens every time, right? But the other thing that's hard is that Morgan has a really irregular period. And so, like, she'll have an extra long period of time before getting, like it's like the 2-week wait happens. And then she continues to not have a period and continues to not have a period. And then finally she gets it. But that whole like week where it's like, where's your period? It's like, do we just have like a very like late showing up? Because some people literally don't get a positive pregnancy test until like day 18 past ovulation. And that's really uncommon. That being said, obviously that's what you're hoping for if you think that you have a missed period, right? And you're trying to conceive. So it makes sense. I don't know. It is all very stressful, and we will see. We'll see if Morgan needs to be on progesterone again. We haven't had her like AMH checked or anything, which is essentially your like egg quantity and quality situation. So I think I'm gonna probably try to bully her gyno into doing that for us. Yeah. Okay. I'll see you guys eventually about something. Okay. So I just made an appointment with a reproductive endocrinologist, Dr. Craig. I don't know if we're gonna end up going. I'm sure we probably will. Morgan, we're technically like 2 days out from technically today is the end of our 2-week wait for another insemination cycle that we did that was just like a known donor, like at home insemination. I don't think either of us have high hopes for it. I secretly stole Morgan's pee because she leaves it out on the counter sometimes, and took one of those like 6 days early tests and it was negative. So I don't think it's this cycle for us, which is okay. Which in November, it will be a year that we've been trying, which is so frustrating because it hasn't really been a year, right? Like, it has only been essentially like 6 cycles, and only one of those cycles do we know for sure that Morgan was like actually ovulating and not having something completely unhinged happening with her body. So that's kind of a lot, but Morgan's been feeling really frustrated. So I called, I lied and pretended to be here and scheduled an OBG appointment a while back. And so we have an appointment October 25th. And I don't know if they do medicated IUI, but that's what I think Morgan like wants to do next. So we can be doing something that's kind of like the next step of like complicated, if that makes sense. Because right now we've just kind of been doing our own thing for a hot minute. And I made an appointment with an actual reproductive endocrinologist for in November 10th. I called them originally, I think in June, and was on a wait list. They were supposed to call back in August, and I don't know if they never did or if they, I don't know. But when I called, she was like, okay, it's going to be a wait list of 2 to 3 months. I said, okay. And I was like, I think I was on the wait list. I think I was supposed to get a call in August. And she was like, oh my God, we have you here. And so anyway, now obviously it's September. And so they're still like booking out 2 months. But we don't have to be on the wait list again, which is great. So I think probably this is the best thing that I've done and that we've done, is just kind of like being ahead of the curve on it, because what worst case scenario, they called back and I was like, no, we're pregnant. We don't need a reproductive endocrine, right? So like, I don't think it hurts under these circumstances where we've been really frustrated to like essentially be working on doing the next step while we're doing the step that we're currently on. Yeah, I think if Morgan ovulated this cycle, it was probably on the 9th, and today is the 21st. So we're technically like 2 days out from being 14 days DPO, which is like when you can first see a line, like a positive pregnancy test. With one of the regular tests, if you get one of the very expensive 6 days early ones, you can essentially see as soon as HCG starts like building, which is when the blastocyst implants, which can be as early as like day 5. So like 24 hours after that, you can see. So anyway, essentially like, I feel like we would have like seen it by now. From that like one, although they're like less, it doesn't matter. It doesn't, all of it's like so much. So anyway, we'll see. That is exciting, and that is what's happening. So
hello,
hi, welcome to Fertility.
Welcome to our fertility vlog. This I think is our 3rd one.
Yep,
I think that's right. We don't remember where we left off.
No,
I think we left off after the acupuncture, which was like a couple months ago.
Oh, okay.
But honestly, nothing major has happened.
Well, you did have the progesterone was happening.
Yes, that was during that. The first one was during that.
Right. Okay.
Because remember at the acupuncture, so I was like, he put me on progesterone.
Yes.
And that seemed to help. And that's when she was like,
had some feelings.
Yes. Anyway, so I had a 50-day cycle.
Yes.
I think we've explained this before, but what that means is that day 1 is the day you start your period.
Yeah.
So I bled for 8 days, which is less than I had been, which is great.
Right.
Bled for 8 days and then didn't bleed again until day 51.
Yeah.
And that was only because I was on another thing of progesterone for 10 days first. So currently I am on day 38. So I bled for, I think, 7 days this most recent time, which is good.
Yeah. Because before the miscarriage, Morgan was pretty consistently bleeding like 5 days, like 6.
I had like a 32 to like 35 day cycle.
Yeah, pretty consistently 35, 36.
Bleeding 5 days.
Right.
Anyway, still haven't started my period.
Yeah.
That is possibly going to be a problem. The good news is,
so months ago, I think we talked about this in whatever fertility vlog that ended up happening during, but it was essentially like we did one of the weird piss robots. It told us that Morgan's FSH number, which there's a lot going on here, but basically it was like, this number is scary. You might have premature ovarian, insufficiency disorder. And so I was like, shit. So in that moment, like 4 months ago,
that was in like May,
literally
think,
4 or 5 months. So, oh God,
more than that,
more than that, a hot minute ago, I called, I found whatever fucking fertility, it's at OHSU and it's a fertility doctor who's covered by our insurance. Fertility is not covered, but most like extensive bleeding, like any things that are actually like health related.
They can like, and like the doctors are usually pretty nice because they know that fertility is never covered, even though they want Americans to have babies. So that's really strange.
Right.
That they can code it as like something else. So anyway, so we're technically seeing this doctor for like, incredibly stressful bleeding.
Oh, that is happening. We had our appointment. It was a telehealth appointment, which was great.
Before the reproductive endocrinologist.
Okay.
We saw my regular OB.
Right.
With a telehealth
That's
appointment.
true. That's
which
true.
Which is good. Basically not a ton of notes from that, but like just so y'all know, like we keep our entire team in the loop, which is what you should be doing if you have a good team. Right. Anyway, so we saw the OB first, being like, we have a reproductive endocrinologist appointment next week. He was like, that's exactly what I would have told you to do next anyway. Right.
We were essentially like, did you want to put us on progesterone again? Do you think we should do progesterone at a certain point if Morgan gets to day 28? And he was like, no, I don't want to like mess with whatever they're going to be doing.
Yeah, which was nice actually.
And I think that's fair.
Yeah, because he was like, they might put you on progesterone. Like, I have no idea what they're going to do.
Right.
Don't want to mess with that. And we were like, cool, good to know.
That makes sense.
Anyway, so then we saw the reproductive endocrinologist.
She was lovely. Asked us for our pronouns. She has a kiddo who's trans who uses they them pronouns. She was super sweet. I really, really liked her vibes. It was like a full like hour long appointment. Like an hour long. And it was like a lot of like chatting. It honestly felt like to any other appointment that we have, it felt most similar to our midwife appointment. Yeah. And y'all know we fucking loved our midwife.
Yeah.
The only reason we're not seeing her presently is because the issues that we're having are past the point of like supplements. And some folks can have that, and then supplements are helpful to them. And this is something where
we've
we just
been doing
needed...
the supplements.
And, and like... essentially what Meredith, our midwife, said, who was very lovely, was like, it looks like you guys are going to need a higher level of care, but like I can continue to support you in any way that I can. So she was incredible, and we haven't been in contact with her recently. She's great.
Someone will be talking to.
Absolutely. Hopefully she'll be like.
But anyway, we had our reproductive endocrinology appointment. She was lovely.
Yes.
The highlights are basically we tell her like my entire like saga of everything that's gone on, everything that's been going on, how things were before the miscarriage.
Yes.
And basically they are going to do 3 images and 2 like blood tests. Is that right?
Kind of. So there's going to be a
on day 2 or 3 of my cycle, whenever it starts.
Yes, I think I don't know if it's the HSG. There's so many things. So correct me if I'm wrong. Whatever. At some point, Morgan is going to have saline pumped into her uterus while I don't know if it's an ultrasound, or I think it's an ultrasound.
It's an ultrasound.
And what they're doing is
it's like a special one.
And it's like the liquid is like different. And so they essentially, it's to make sure that your tubes are not blocked. The reason there may be a concern about Morgan's tubes being blocked is because she had abdominal surgery years and years and years ago. Although you did get pregnant the first time, so it'd be weird if your tubes are blocked, but whatever.
No, but if one of them was blocked, it could have been that I got pregnant using the other one.
Essentially.
And she also was like, and if we find that out, and that's fine, because if we do medicated IUI, we can only like inseminate on one when we know a side that's not blocked is going to release an egg.
Yes.
And I was like, that's cool.
And lots of folks actually have only like one like fallopian tube. So there's a lot of layers to it, but essentially if both Morgan's tubes were blocked, we would, instead of doing IUI, which again is like essentially the turkey baster, but like with a catheter at a doctor's office, it goes up past your cervix. Mm-hmm. And when we do it, it's getting to the cervix or a little bit below the cervix, basically. So it's like getting
closer to where it needs to end up.
Right. And then it's like the sperm has been like washed and like had all this stuff done with it.
It's been like washed so that only the best swimmers and no extra stuff is like present.
Yes.
Which also helps.
So that is what IUI is. IVF is when you make a baby in a petri dish and then you take a catheter and then you shoot the baby into the it's not a baby. It's like a blastocyst is what it is. It's a little itty bitty, it's like 100 cells or whatever that goes in. So anyway, that it's important information for us to have. And there are a lot of folks actually who have infertility problems get an HSG and then like they're like smooth sailing for the rest of it because there was like something weird that was in the way or whatever. So there's that. There is a biopsy of Morgan's endometrium. It sounds like our doctor thinks that Morgan has calcified products of conception, and what essentially that means is like some like piece of placenta or something like that usually, I'm so sorry, I'm going to say a bunch of this wrong, but typically if you have any part of placenta or it's like really sad, but like chunks of what would be the blueberry, something that was helping to grow the blueberry or part of the blueberry or whatever, it will produce HCG in your body, and in your blood, which is what like you get a positive pregnancy test for. So this whole time, people have been like frantically testing Morgan for HCG to try to make sure that like that went down when it was supposed to. And like Morgan's had 0 HCG. Like there's nothing in there.
It's down to 0 when they do a blood test.
And if you have products of conception, typically you would still have an HCG, but I guess maybe sometimes if they're calcified, like it's not producing HCG anymore.
It's something they're going to test for regardless.
Yes. So they're going to take out a little tiny chunk of endometrium, see what's going on there. There's one other thing.
There's another imaging thing. I don't remember what it is.
Yeah.
It's all on the same day. But the first thing is just the blood test, which is on day 2 or 3 of my cycle.
Right.
So as soon as I start bleeding, I have to call me like, can you see me tomorrow or the next day?
Yes.
And they have to figure that out.
I think they will. I think that's why they're booked out a full month for it's so they can have those slots open for people.
And then on sometime between day 6 and day 12 is when they're doing the imaging
is
stuff.
happening. And that blood test is going to tell us Morgan's AMH, which is her anti-Mullerian hormone. And the bigger that number is, the more eggs that you have left, because there's like a tiny amount that each egg secretes. The FSH is the hormone that your brain and your brain has to send to your uterus to try to get your uterus to ovulate. Eggs. So if that number is higher, it means
send eggs.
So if that number is higher, it means your brain is going, please send a fucking egg, because the ovaries can't hear as well, because there are less eggs, because there's a lack of communication, something like that.
Dusty. Something.
Dusty haunted house uterus.
I'm translating.
Yeah. Well, no, but Morgan had a really high number, so that's what scared us. But it turns out that number can actually fluctuate a lot, and it's not necessarily something we need to be concerned about.
Also,
AMH is more serious.
Obviously, the blood test was more accurate than the robot that we have.
Yes.
At our house, because we're not doctors.
Right. And also, if Morgan has like calcified products of conception, that's relevant in that number, because obviously your number is going to be high if your body cannot ovulate, because it thinks, and obviously you would be bleeding a lot more and for many more days if your body's saying like, oh, we need to shed out something that's going on.
Yeah.
So
that would make the most sense. It would be like the most sad, I think. But it would be like basically everything that it could be, they've got a solution for.
Yes.
The most stressful part is this in-between part, as always, where we don't know anything.
Because we're waiting for Morgan to start her period so that we can have all these tests done. And so there's that section of it. Put that to the side. That is the Morgan's body chunk of this existence.
Yeah.
Separately from that, we have the known donor shit that's taking place. So we have a known donor, as y'all know. Previously, I had said like, yeah, because it's like a ton cheaper. And so like, obviously, like that's why we like lean towards that initially, but it's like what we would want for our family regardless. And that holds true. It is more similar in price than we had thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So
now that we're having to do this.
Holy shit. So typically a vial of sperm, like that to be used for IUI, they're like between like $1,000 and $2,000, between like $750 and $2,000, depending on where you get them from.
How like popular the
depending
sperm
on a million
is.
things. And if you're doing IUIs, you need like 1 vial of sperm per IUI that you're going to do, and it typically takes folks right around 3, and on like average. And then if you're using it for IVF, like there's millions of sperm in 1 vial, so you only need 1 vial if you're going straight to IVF, which most folks are not, because it's the most expensive. That's like $20,000 to $40,000.
I was gonna say it's a difference between like a couple thousand and like tens of thousands.
Yes, it's like literally like a tenfold. So what the fuck was I saying? Oh, if you are using a known donor, you need to have your known donor FDA certified to give sperm. I don't think that this is silly. I don't think it's stupid.
No, I know why they're doing it.
The reason that they're doing it is because
funny to say.
It's hilarious to say, but they want to make sure that a physician's office is not putting...
It's to protect them and to protect you.
Because if they put a byproduct in someone that gave that person HIV, that's a whole fucking thing, right? That's a problem. So what's going to need to happen with our donor so first step 1 is we have to have a consultation. It's like $250, and it is a
it's like a psych eval.
Yes, it's like, is it like 30 minutes or like 2 hours?
I think ours is an hour.
It's something like that.
But theirs
it's a telehealth. Hold on, it's a telehealth thing that has to happen. We have to essentially talk like, this is how we're going to talk to our, I have no idea what they're going to ask us. We'll tell them, we'll tell y'all when we figure that out, but that needs to happen first. Step 2 is that our sperm donor has to get completely, it's like FDA certified. So his psych eval is 3 hours long. So the way that they typically do it is they do an 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. day, where 11 to 1, the sperm donor is getting a blood test, a pee test, a physical examination, and then like a risk factors interview. That's basically like similar to what you would do for donating blood. An hour break for lunch, and then they go back and they do a 3-hour long like psych eval. That's basically like, do you understand what you're doing? And we'll tell you more.
Do you understand that like you will have no rights to this child?
Right.
Like,
if they are,
you are not the father of this child.
Yes. And if they're living with a partner, that partner has to go with them, and they have to do it together. And then we like Zoom call, FaceTime in for the last like 30 minutes of it, so that we can all chat together and kind of like rehash. Then sperm donor cannot ejaculate for 48 hours, like as much time as we can put in between there. So Monday that happens, Wednesday they do a donation, nothing on Thursday, and then Friday they do a donation. Our donor lives an hour and a half away from our clinic, and we live like an hour away from our clinic. So it's a busy week for him, but in a perfect world, he gets all this shit done. We don't have to bug him.
Again.
What is a bummer.
With him again for an insemination.
Right, because normally we've been stressfully being like, hello, did you want to masturbate?
I would say actually that's kind of a bummer for us in general though, because like
they are kind of fun.
They're very fun. I love the idea that like had we been successful like getting pregnant at like a fun little hotel, being like, yeah, we hung out with this person, who like will be in the kid's life, and like, you know, took swap places, and then we like all ate pizza and watched TV. Like,
it's kind of
sat there with my legs in the air, you know, like
it's like a morning of a time that is going to be ending for us, and that's and
okay. Maybe it won't be like we are doing my stuff first, and because basically like our reproductive endocrinologist was like, we could find out that like the problem was just that you needed to get a little scrape out, right, and then you guys could try and do like a couple more cycles at home and get pregnant then.
So a scrape out medically is typically called like a DNC procedure. I don't know if it's
more fun to say scrape out.
It's more fun to say.
It's not going to be fun.
But if you're someone who has had an abortion, or if you had a miscarriage in a hospital where they decided to do a DNC, it's like it's a scrape out basically. But so they didn't do that for Morgan at the ER because they were like, everything's coming out the way it's supposed to, which is also weird to me because at the ER they literally were like, there's a piece that didn't want to come out that was like stuck in the cervix. Do you know what I mean?
I just feel like they should have offered it, and like I'm not a doctor, so, and like I'm not mad, I'm not trying to sue anybody or anything.
They were lovely.
Yeah, they were lovely. I do wish that they had offered it,
because it sounds like Morgan's bleeding would have been over more quickly, and so instead of 2 weeks,
everything on the internet is saying like that it sucked, but everything was done pretty quickly, and like they knew that everything was.
A DNC can affect your fertility moving forward. Like it really. It's also like circumstances.
Really not fun.
No.
So like I'm not mad that they didn't offer it, but I also kind of wish they had. But it's easy to say that because hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah, I don't know what we would have said. I feel like you probably would have said scrape you.
Probably. I probably would have done whatever the doctor recommended, which is what I did, I guess, because they were like, I don't think we need to do this. And I was
essentially, we're like, cool, that sounds good. So the other thing, so essentially what's happening right now is we're waiting on Morgan's period to start. And then our donor is actually just going to get like a sperm analysis, like a basic one. That's only like $110.
Easy.
Easy squeezy, just to make sure that like it's worth it, basically. I love him. He smokes a ton of pot. So it may be that his sperm's not.
He will good. Like he's been an excellent donor and will continue to be an excellent donor. So I think if we were like, hey, you can't smoke pot this week, like, it's really important. But as far as we can tell, I think he just shouldn't smoke pot like the day before, maybe.
Oh my God.
Not a huge deal.
He's so funny. I mean, if his sperm's really good, theoretically it's not affecting it that negatively, but yeah, so all of that is going on. It has been really stressful. We've done a lot of crying, but essentially the full, I don't know if I said this already, but like the full donor, whatever, everything for him is going to cost $4,000. So, and then also if we needed more vials, which I don't anticipate us needing more vials because we do like 3 IUIs and then
they should freeze it.
Yeah, it'll be frozen. It'll be frozen.
Oh, but the other thing that's really interesting is like, so he gets FDA approved. Let's say he passes all these things with flying colors.
Yes.
Everything goes great. He does his Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah.
They're only FDA approved for that week.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So the next FDA
that's why
approval,
they have to do it all in 1 week.
It's a little bit less expensive. It's not quite $4,000 to do it another week. Because it's like $1,500 of it's essentially like a processing and like keeping of the sperm and like vibe checking this person. Like I don't think they have to they don't have to do
another psyche,
the interview. Yeah.
It would be more like the blood, like making sure that he didn't go out and sleep with some rando and get like something.
Right.
You know.
Which we wouldn't anticipate him doing.
No, but
if he wasn't partnered, then honestly like that would be his choice if that was something that he was gonna do. So it wouldn't be, it's all a lot. Yeah, I feel like this is kind of, we're like coming up on, right now, today is November 20th.
Today's the 20th, yeah.
Today's the 20th, and we got pregnant on the 18th last year. So it's been rough.
Yeah, we're coming up on a year. I think like we go back and forth, I think, because like, I don't know, like I thought Christmas was going to be sadder, but it really hasn't. I love Christmas, I think, too much. But like we told everyone we were pregnant at the Christmas, like at our like Christmas Eve party last year.
Yeah.
And so I think that's going to be really hard.
Yeah.
Like the party specifically. And then like I'm sure the actual like day will be really hard.
Yeah.
But
the party's going to be rough. And then like I was just like really like new at my job basically. Like when all of this was happening. And so I feel like that's part of why I really don't fucking want to go to work right now, because it's like this time of year again, like when like everything was, so like that, like I hate, I don't know. It's been like kind of brutal.
I mean, like it is like when we were having the appointment, or like when we're going to something and we feel like we're actually doing something. It's like, we're like
really hopeful. It's like, thank God.
This is great.
Awesome.
But then it's also like when, like right now, when we're just like, we're just waiting on me to bleed. Like we can't do anything to make that happen.
No.
Like that is frustrating.
Yeah.
I will say, you know, nobody has told us to just relax in a while.
We should have a count. It's been like 90 days since somebody told us to just relax.
And so that's been amazing.
That's been incredible.
I love that no one's told us to relax.
That is so true.
But it's because we've been seeing only our like doctors who know like our history versus like ER doctors.
Yeah.
Which like they're not shitty or anything, but
no.
It's hard. I'm tired of people who don't actually know us or anything we've been through being like, you know, if you just stop thinking about getting pregnant, you will. And I'm like, that's so interesting because we don't have any sperm in our house.
Yeah, I think it's because we hollered it loud enough in the vicinity of like well-meaning people either on the internet or that we know in real life who might try to say that, so they know that like I will not hesitate to just scream and kick you in the shins if you say just relax. Like that's the worst thing you could possibly say.
And the other good news is like, you know, because we aren't able to do anything, we're able to put more energy into other things. So like we have like upped our Patreon a bit more because now we can post videos on there.
Yeah.
And then like, you know, stream's been going really well. And like we, you know, are like getting our hands into other things. We are looking at merch again.
Yeah.
So like, you know, there's pros.
There's exciting stuff going on. That being said, it has been there's been like crying in the car. I don't know. When we did like a Q&A on Instagram where people were like asking questions about like fertility type things. And I just like wrote a little bit about how I'd been feeling like sad and frustrated and things were hard, and there's so many people who responded and were like, oh my God, yes, like this is exactly what it's like. So I just really don't want folks to think that like in these videos that like we are feeling great.
No. You know, it's like you don't want to like record yourself crying.
No.
Every time it happens. You know what I mean? Like,
no.
You know, I mean, we do post sad things on our close friends.
That's true.
A bit more often.
That's true.
Not, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah. It's like, I just like want folks to know, like, please don't, if you're seeing us go through this and you feel like it looks easier or easy or like we're not having a hard time, like please know that that has not been our experience, and that if you feel like this is one of the most difficult things that you've ever had to do, and it's like incredibly brutal and continually heartbreaking in a cycle.
So, like it feels so lonely, even though like it's not. Lots of people are having issues all the time. It's because like these like really vulnerable moments we're only having together, and not that like we couldn't cry upstairs with our parents or like you know we couldn't like cry on the internet to people, but it's because like you don't want to. Yeah. Like. And, like, I'm not upset that we have to be sad sometimes because, like, you have to. That's just life. Yeah. But, like, yeah, I feel like it's really specifically lonely because, like, statistically, everyone who's in an infertility group isn't going to stay infertile forever. Like, statistically, most of them are going to get pregnant. And it's hard to be in, like, an infertility group or anything like that because, like, you hate to see it.
It's, like, continually... It's triggering both ways, right? And I think that's the hardest part, is that there are only, if I'm being honest with myself, 2 people who I see on the internet and I see their content right now who like they experience something difficult and now they have a baby, and I see them and I'm like, oh my God. And there's no trauma associated with it because I'm like, wow, like that's going to be us. Like they made it out. It's great. And anyone who's having a worse time than us, I'm like, oh my fucking God, like I can't do another however amount of time of this.
Like, people will be like, you know, it took me 6 years and like 8 miscarriages, but finally, and I'm like, please don't comment that.
And it's not, it's
and
like
it's not, it's just that it's hard to read.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's not that it's there. And I'm like, when, I don't know, like when we first started this and people were like, you know, oh my God, like it took me like a year to get pregnant and it was way more stressful than I thought it was going to be. You're always going to read that and be like, oh, that's not going to be us. Like, we're not going to have to do that. Right. So like, I think that's part of what it is it's like this, like, it's just fear.
Yeah.
It's completely fear-based, which isn't really
And then
fair.
like on the opposite coin, like, you know, we're both friends with people from like our high school.
Right.
Who are like, oops,
just like
pregnant
shooting out
6.
babies.
And we're like,
right. Or people who
and like,
are
I'm
like,
happy for them, but it's hard to see.
Yeah.
You know, and like,
and people who are saying shit like, oh my God, just take my kids. I'm so fucking sick of them. And it's like, I would kill to be sick of my kids right now. Yeah. You know? So I think that's why it feels so lonely, honestly, is because it's like this, it's so tenuous. There's like no, it feels difficult to find camaraderie.
And it's difficult to talk about, I think, because it's like, what's the word that I want?
I feel like we sound bitchy when we say,
no,
like, please don't comment.
What's the word that I want, where it's like, it comes with like, there's a lot of...
It's like bittersweet?
No.
Silver lining?
No. People say like, oh, you can't have a conversation about that without a lot of nuance.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of nuance to it.
There's a shit ton of nuance to it. So it's hard to talk about on the internet in 30, where it's 24 minutes that we've been recording this, 25. So, you know, that's what it's like. It's just...
We're feeling realistically hopeful.
Realistically, oh my God.
I would say.
I'm feeling like it doesn't feel realistic to feel hopeful, and I'm feeling melancholy, and I'm feeling so angry, and sometimes so sad. And like, also like, there's literally nothing else that we could be doing. And so I think that's kind of like a gratifying part of this process.
But
where
also
it's
the
like,
bummer part, because we're like, we've done everything.
I didn't fuck anything up.
It's
you
like
know?
that TikTok video. It's like, it's raining. Why is it still raining?
It's a lot like that. Mm-hmm. It feels just like that.
It feels just like
What a sad audio. I also went through and read the comments on a video of a person talking about like essentially our exact donor situation, and they were only talking about it positively, and the comments made me want to scream. And they were mostly positive, but the ones that like didn't get the vibe were like, I just was like, oh cool, we're never like super openly talking about our donor situation, because I hate that. And I just can't. And, you know, some things will remain very private, and some things we'll share with the class. And I'm glad that this is something that we're talking about, and I wish we didn't have to.
Yeah.
And it's hard, I think, also now that it's been a year. Sorry, I'm just like going on. But like, I keep on looking at pictures from like a year ago.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, they had experienced so little trauma at that time. And right now, I think that's the hardest part for me, is like missing that version of us that was like so excited.
Yeah.
And like wishing, and there's no way we can get that back. Like,
no, and that's true of like
anything.
All people who go through this or go through something similar.
Yeah.
But it is like, I don't know. It's specific.
It's marked more cyclically than I feel like a lot of other experiences that I've had before. And so that's part of what's hard about it, is that every time the same thing happens again, you're like, Jesus fucking Christ, this just keeps happening the way I don't want it to, you know? And so that's what's hard.
But also the only way you can like change the outcome
is by continuing to do it.
Yeah, in the scenarios, to keep doing it, but with like more knowledge or more doctors or more...
Right. And you're just like more afraid every time it happens. Like, I know that when we get pregnant, we're going to be like so fucking scared.
Yeah.
The whole time. I think
we'll try not to be. I don't know. We'll find out. Hopefully. I mean, I know we will. We will. But anyway, so that's kind of where we're at right now. Hopefully the next chunk of this video, which may be an hour and a half long, will be us talking about what our experience was like. Getting Morgan blood taken. Hopefully in like 3 days.
Yeah.
But unlikely.
Probably not though.
Today's November 20th, so we'll tell you how long it took before I actually got my period. So
okay. You're never gonna believe this, team, but it's December 7th. We've not done the blood taking yet. That last video is on November something. It's December something, 2nd. Oh my God. Morgan's cycle has been unhingedly long. We did another chunk of progesterone, this time only for 7 days, at the asking of our fertility doctor. So that's good. We have a couple of Morgan's things scheduled, her imaging and other shit, and blood work, not blood work, I guess just imaging, scheduled in the hopes that she'll be able to keep those appointments. But if she doesn't bleed, we will see. So that is happening now. We're just again on blood watch, as always. Next video hopefully will be about what results we got. Okay, love y'all.